Thank you, Peter, and yeah, good morning and good day to all the participants, and thank you for making the time to come into this webinar and just getting an update from Kevin and myself on where we stand and what we are planning moving ahead. Just a typical disclaimer here. I would like to start off with a bit of narrative, as you have all followed the company going through a kind of a transition over the last 18 months. We have gone through a bit of a rebranding, together with the management team, defined the narrative of the company, and on top of building a brand that has a sustainable strategy, we have looked at obviously very capable, experienced board members that we've got on board just recently with the appointment of Richard Morrow joining the board, and that will very well complement the existing competences of the team, and we're very excited moving forward. The narrative builds on a very simple business model. As you're all aware, our flagship project is about developing a ground jewel, I would say, of the Australian tungsten mining sector. And we have a strong focus on these kind of critical minerals, or new economy minerals as they were recently defined, and implementing advanced technologies, process technologies to drive cost performance and environmental performance, which ultimately lead to better shareholder returns. That is the focus moving forward, how we identify additional targets for the company moving into the future. Very strong value proposition here on the flagship Mount Carbine tungsten development. We are sitting in a sweet spot of supporting not only the Australian government, but also industrialized economies to emerge the development of critical minerals production. We're very pleased with the response we have received from the Critical Minerals Facilitation Office and other government institutions supporting this approach and supporting EQR moving the project ahead. We had a very low cost, I think, entry into the project with existing infrastructure, which was left over from the previous quarry operator, who was as well the mining lease holder. So we are utilizing or building on utilizing the existing infrastructure and facilities at site. We have spent approximately $1.5 million to upgrade the facilities, as you have surely followed in our regular updates. We do benefit from the byproduct revenue streams coming out of the quarry operations. I leave a bit on operational update for Kevin in a minute. The world-class resource, we believe that there's still a greater exploration upside potential within the existing structure. The open pit had been well explored. We have just announced the end of last year, identified a strike section over 1.2 kilometers, which is now being a target area for the underground development and underground drilling program that is due to come. I guess timing is quite right. Again, our personal backgrounds is really critical minerals and tungsten specifically, and I would say we are just rebounding, obviously, as many other base metals commodities from the COVID pandemic. We have seen a strong increase on tungsten pricing, 10 consecutive weeks prices have increased. The demand is very strong, and we are all well aware of the supply crunch that is created by the dominance of China, providing more than 80% of world supply. And we do believe that these let's say price environments, as we have seen it in the last 2 years at $200 per APT MTU unit, that this will be history, and moving forward with a much stronger price segment where we are operating as one of the cost leaders in the industry. I leave Kevin running through a bit of an operational update and going through the planning for the next 12 to 18 months.
Yeah. Good day, everybody. I guess some of these slides, some of you were on the last presentation might recognize them, but I think it's important just to go back to where we had started in the operation. And certainly with the tailings plant, we've been running now pretty consistently at 15 to 20,000 tons a month over the last several months. The rain has affected us a little bit in the last quarter. We are making adjustments for that, and we are seeing a little bit better weather. I think we might have another week of bad weather coming at us, but after that, I think the ore sorter in particular will be kicking in proper. I guess the quarry operation, we were fulfilling the large BALMA contract. We do have their remainder of their product on the ground. It will be delivered probably starting in May, the remainder of that particular contract. So we have been meeting with them. They do have additional work on, and we are working on several large projects as well to see if we can secure the quarry material for those. We have, as we had talked about, getting into the feasibility study now. We've been doing a lot of background scoping work to prep for the feasibility study, and we're solidly moving in that direction currently with this new funding, and I'll just explain that a little bit later. And I think the other thing is the tungsten cluster that remains in this area. It's one of the largest in the world. And we are certainly in discussions and looking at test work and ways that we could optimize between the various companies in the area, that we could utilize infrastructure possibilities and working together as opposed to apart. This next slide coming up, I guess, I'm not sure if we've seen this one before, but anyway, this is just an overview of the site at Mount Carbine. We have number one, which is the office and laboratory facilities and core shed down there. Number two is our tailings retreatment operation. And I think you might have a picture of that. Yeah. So this, as you might have read in the news release, there is going to be an upgrade of about $1.5 million. Currently, if I push tonnage any further than between 15 and 20,000 tons a month, I start to lose recovery. So the work is going to be focused on getting the production tonnage up over 1,000 tons a day on this operation. And currently we're sitting at about 700 to 800 tons. The next area is number three. This is the quarry operation that we've discussed. We have modernized the quarry, as you might have read, and the new crushing system is in and installed, and we are proceeding on that basis. It is performing a lot of work for the ore sorter currently, using this equipment to do the trial mining, trial testing through the 12 million ton stockpile that we're doing on a daily basis. Yep, number four is our pilot ore sorter. We have run several campaigns through this machine. We love this when the material comes from there down into the processing plant. It's like rocket fuel that hits it. So we're looking forward to running this 24/7 in the near future with some minor upgrades that we are going to continue while we finish the feasibility study on the waste dump. We'll be ramping up the ore sorter to get more tungsten units with a higher grade hitting the plant. Interesting, number five, as you might have talked about, I just wanted to show a schematic of the waste dump. Here it's 12 million tons. You can see the trenches that we've been sampling and putting through the ore sorter. And nothing unexpected. The grade appears to be very good, and the ore sorter is getting 90+% recovery on the way through. So it's looking pretty good. We have taken a large bulk sample again out of this pit with several thousand tons, and we're quite pleased with what we're seeing so far of the material. So yeah, number six is the expansion into Iron Duke and the Dyke West zones. Some of the early drilling that will be taking place in the near future is going to be expanding the Dike West zone into and entering the decline, and where these veins cross under that high wall by the number 4 and 5, that decline runs in underneath the high wall and those veins intercept it. So we will be testing and drilling and checking those out, as well as I know a lot of people have been waiting for Iron Duke. It's been around a while, but we have put some budget in to drill some holes into Iron Duke and to understand it better from a geological point of view. It's kind of a wild card out there. We're trying to figure out exactly what's happening. And so, yeah, looking forward and encouraged to drill that off this year in the near future. So again, this is the use of proceeds. We're looking at the feasibility studies, both for the 12 million ton stockpile and the underground operation. This includes the drilling budget and entering the underground for the underground operation, as well as doing the study on the 12 million ton dump. The plant expansion, as I talked about, we're looking at $1.5 million Aussie dollars to upgrade so we can get some more tonnage through there, and then exploration, drilling, and just some contingency. So we will be looking at our gold properties in earnest and developing those further. This is the timeline for development. We've already done the facilitation document draft and submitted it. The mine inspectors are here. We're meeting with them currently today. The feasibility people, one of the groups that we're entertaining for completing the feasibility study, is also on site today. So it's quite a busy time. So we are moving on this. The upgrades of the gravity plant, we've already started to push the button on some of the orders and planning that we've had out, and then we'll be starting with the underground. It'll be a combined feasibility study, both from the stockpile and the underground. And yeah, we're working with NAIF to secure funding, as well as other debt funders, to see for the stockpile first, in order to eliminate the dilution, is to go with the very low capex on the ore stockpile, and then before we hit the underground, which is a higher capex. So by 2022, yeah, we hope to be finished with everything and all operations running. I guess you guys will be familiar with this this plan as well. As you can see, the dark blue line is the existing decline. There's several veins that are crossing it, like I said, that we're going to drill and check out. And we already have mine plans that show the development from that Dike West zone to start with, because it's the quickest and easiest access to some of the King veins that we see. So we will be driving an adit from the decline back out into the open pit is the current planning. And you can see some of the high grades from the King veins that we're looking at, and the drill intercepts, how many drill intercepts that they have. So it's a very high grade. Yep. Once again, this is the veins and Surpac that have been put together, showing some of the drilling and the drill intercepts that are going through them. So we have a very robust model. We'll be trying to put some of that up on social media as we go forward here, and as it develops a bit further. We'll try to get up some three-dimensional pits that we have and going forward. So it's quite impressive. Again, the production, I know we talked about this before, nothing has changed. We plan on ramping the plant up to get between 600 and 800 tons a year this year, and then that ramping up with the stockpile comes in on the 1 million tons. 12 to 1,500 tons of concentrate, and then up to 25 to 3,000 tons when the underground kicks in. Is quite a significant upgrade, and it's possibly even more than that, what we're seeing currently. So we're quite excited about that. So Oliver, I'll hand it back to you on the ESG.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin, and I'm sure we'll be having a few questions there and addressing the work program once more later. Just closing out on some of the activities we do around, and again, that's really part of the company's DNA and the brand we want to build. As I said and introduced earlier, the technical capabilities we've put on board with with Kevin and the team on the XRT sorting, which suits pretty well for tungsten processing. And again, there had been a track record with the team currently at site implementing similar projects in other places. And it's really about resource efficiency. It's an environmental benefit that is being created that ultimately leads to, again, improved shareholder value. So that's all proven, and we just have to put it into reality. Also, thanks to our partners, Tomra and others, which really helped on getting the unit, the plant, the pilot plant up and running and specced up to the latest software and hardware out in the market. So I guess we had a comparative study done with our recent test work comparing to the XRT sorting work that had been done 5, 6, 7 years ago. So we are really believing that the technology is advancing and we'll reap the benefit from it. We do reach out to other stakeholders. You know that we have received a small grant by Metz Ignited, where companies like Tomra, our offtake partner Cronimet, Des Mining, and the University of Queensland are supporting the activities at site. We are also a member of the European Raw Material Alliance, reaching out to final consumers, not only in Europe, but also in the US, as we highlighted recently. Shipments had been gone to probably some of the largest groups in the industry in the US, Europe, and around Asia. We are currently applying for additional grants and we'll update the market as we move on. But once more, we really appreciate the relations that had been developed with government agencies, specifically on supporting projects in the critical mineral space. We're likewise proud of having been selected by EMEC towards the finalists for the environmental award. I think that is really just an endorsement of what the company is doing and how we structure again our set of capabilities moving forward, how we approach projects and the contribution we bring to the industry. Yeah, closing out, this is really the last slide, just a summary of all the highlights. I would probably slice the cake up in the middle on the right side. All the arguments that we had put together when we sat down months ago and decided how we are best validating the opportunity around Mount Carbine. And what we see there, again, a lot of work has been done around the geology, as Kevin explained. We have relocked the drill data, the historical information, put it on a new software system and go through further validation along the way when we enter the decline and expand the data set. We have been ramping up the tungsten process plant, which I would say was an old lady. I think the team has done a great effort to get it where it is now, with a high availability, running 24/7, but obviously further optimization required. We do believe that the test work, which we have done so far on the low-grade stockpile, is giving us very strong confidence on pushing the button and moving to a 1 million ton throughput. So we have validated the potential on the stockpile and believe that we can very well lift the value along the way. And obviously the quarry is needless to say, gives a great addition in terms of revenue, in terms of, as I said, environmental footprint is something that we believe directly translates into cost. So instead of obviously building tailing dams and facilities to stockpile the process waste, we actually turn $1 on it. So again, we've sat down a few months ago and clearly said that this is a validation phase, and I think we are very satisfied with the results and everything on the left side, the further underground development, the test mining, overall the securing the mining lease with the acquisition 2 years ago. I think that really lays the groundwork for the expansion. We are in extremely good exchange with final consumers. So the marketing side is well covered. We know their needs. The tungsten is a very technical product, some of you know. So we went through a couple of rounds of sending samples to the market, to the consumers, but very positive feedback there. And now obviously looking at securing funding for the larger expansion. So that's probably wrapping up the potential that we see, and hopefully enlightened you all on what the work program is that you all should be following us on.
Thanks, Oliver, and thanks, Kevin. We've got a few questions coming through here. The first has to do with we've seen some government funding recently for one of our peers. A question here is just a question on potential for government funding at state or federal level. What sort of engagement has there been, and what are your expectations?
Should I take that?
Yeah,
please.
Okay. Yeah. No. I mean, the government has been nothing but supportive to the company. The critical metals. We had met with the critical metals. What do you call it? Ollie Fund or whatever it is, the board, and just this week, and it was really quite exciting to talk about them. As you might have seen from the news release, we've engaged with NAIF, with our partner Rock Financial doing the debt, and we are looking at several grants slash matching funds as we go through the waste dump, both from the modern manufacturing grant and CRC, I think it is, Ollie, and so yeah, we're chasing all those. So when we're in a position with the feasibility study done on the waste dump, which won't take too long, but we will be approaching the Queensland government and anybody else that can provide funds. But there's some significant funds that we can get leverage dollar for dollar on currently. And I just see about the value add to the ore. It is something that we are looking at and applying for in one of the research grants, looking at the possibility of smelting the tungsten in country and to value add to the ore, which I believe, Ollie, it has an uplift of 25 to 30%, which is a very simplistic process. It's not like most smelters. It's a batch type process of exothermic reaction. So it's quite straightforward. So we will be investigating that as part of the study as well.
Thanks, Kevin. There's Oliver, perhaps this one's for you. Someone's asking if there's a possibility of having a retail component to the recent raising, which I must say, going through Morgan Financial is a terrific outcome given the scale of and level that they're held in the financial markets in Australia, and being Queensland based, I think it's a great result. But those funds going to institutional and sophisticated investors will be welcome. Is there any plan for a retail component?
Well, there is in place, I think, as you said, Peter, and yeah, I guess, I mean, the plan is really to consider this as a last race, going through the feasibility study and then talking to the debt providers. So I guess we are not in the position yet to mention any ratios on this raising, but certainly we have to recognize that the last few months was really much focused on getting the operation stabilized, implementing our plan, implementing as I mentioned before, the validation strategy that I highlighted everything on the right side. So I guess the team has done their homeworks, and now it's the time with Morgan's, Stephen Stroud and the team. We are very pleased that they took us on. I think that's also an endorsement, I believe, for the company and yeah, the let's say brand that we want to develop here. But yeah, we will be more present, obviously, on social media, on updating the market, and obviously welcome any retail investor to jump on. But we very well consider this 6.5 million very sufficient to bring us through the feasibility and then talk to debt providers. So that's the next focus, and not going through raisings on a frequent basis.
Okay, I think there's probably not too many more coming through. I might just ask one that would be anticipated. You say you're really happy with the sorter, Kevin, and it's had a few upgrades. When do you expect that to be in full operation?
Yeah, I guess I guess the one thing that we've really struggled with in the last quarter, where we thought we would be a little further ahead, was with the amount of rain that we got on a daily basis here affected the performance of the sorting. So we have worked out a plan to get around that now with some wet screening prior to the sorting. and during the rainy season. So that seems to have solved our issue. But we plan to get it going in earnest really this month, towards the latter part of this month, and then run it at least 12 hours a day. But it makes such a difference in the throughput and the concentrate production that happens, not only in quantity but also the grade of the concentrate compared to the running just the tailings.
And having lived
also, sorry, Peter, and just also the fines that come out of the waste dump are a very high grade recovery compared to the tailings that we're seeing.
And having lived in that area, Kevin, I understand the challenges of the weather that much of the country doesn't understand. When it rains up there, it can rain a metre in a week or so. So that can be challenging to scheduling. Another question here is regarding submission to NAIF for funding after feasibility phase. Do you have some comment on the process for the phases and the ability for NAIF funding?
Yep. Do you want me to take it all?
Go ahead.
Yep. So what we're looking at is like a two-stage funding, but a similar document. So sometimes the funders don't like it if it's too small. So we're anticipating the stockpile, 12 million ton stockpile, to be somewhere around $10 to $15 million to get the equipment and the additional plant and earth moving and crushing equipment that's required, and the sorters to put in for the waste dump. So what we discussed with the debt funders, that we would do it in a two-stage funding. So the guys that do the first 15 million, they would have first crack at the underground funding. But I want to do it in two stages as well, so we can get the share price up, and if there is any equity component required for the underground portion, that we would be in a very good position to fulfill whatever would be required at that time.
Okay. There's another question here regarding the XRT sorter. Do you envisage using it at future sites for other minerals?
Yeah, I've got quite a bit of experience in sorting since 2010. I've been using sensor-based sorting in all kinds of minerals. We do have our eyes on a couple of opportunities that we're looking at. I really wanted to get this feasibility study started and underway and start the real cash flow rolling into the company. And then we're going to be really looking at other opportunities in earnest. But we will, in saying that, I do owe it to the shareholders to look at our gold properties, which I must say have been a little bit of a stepchild over the last 6 months since I've taken on the role here. So we will be paying attention to the gold operations.
Okay, I think that's exhausted our questions there. Is there any final comments, Oliver, to shareholders? I think from my perspective, it seems the last 6 months has been really setting the stage for some activity and growth, and given the funding now from a substantial partner, financial partner like Morgan's, we really should have a busy period coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and yeah, once more, thanks everybody making the time. I think a closing comment from my side would just be that, again, I think the timing is right. We all see the geopolitical developments and supply chain interruptions throughout COVID that has shaken up a lot of governments. And again, I guess we as individuals or together with Cronimet and other stakeholders, we are part of this industry. I think we have connected a lot of dots already. We had probably not been, let's say, promoting each and every activity too intensively. That was the trigger point, I believe, this last raising. So we'll be, let's say, looking forward to stay in touch with shareholders and into the stakeholders to exchange ideas and obviously highlighting the achievements along the way. But a matter of fact, we are sitting at a very good point in the value chain of tungsten with, in my point of view, a grand jewel of as I said before, the Australian tungsten industry, as Kevin highlighted, we are sitting in a cluster in far north Queensland, and are in exchange with not only our neighbor concession holders, but also with the government, as they have realized the value that we have out there. And having already been in touch and having performed commercial deliveries of the product for something, as I said, which is very technical, and validated the quality. I think that's all the boxes are ticked, and now we go back and focus very much on executing the development plan as outlined today.
Terrific. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, and thank you to all who attended today. It's a pretty good number there on the call list. If there are any other questions, please send them through to me, Peter at NWR Communications, and I'll make sure those are forwarded to the right people on the team at NQR. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, attendees, and have a lovely rest of your week.